All right, well, thanks for joining us today. We're joined by Liongard. Liongard is a phenomenal solution. I'm not going to explain it because these guys will do better than me, but hands down, recommend this product to every single one of our members. And it will greatly reduce your overhead cost from a labor burden perspective. And it just does so much more than I can even talk to. So I'll turn it over to who's taking control here. We have Sarah and Bill on the phone with us from Liongard. So I'll turn it over to one of you.
Me.
Okay, Bill, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it, Lane. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Morgan. I'm with Liongard. A little bit on my background really quick. I've been in IT for about, I don't know, almost 25 years now. I worked at ConnectWise for 10 years before I came over to Liongard. So very familiar with the MSP community and the space and the tool sets and the things that are out there. So as I go through this, I've got a short little couple slide PowerPoint, I think, that just kind of frames everything up. We'll jump into actual product demos so you can see what it looks like. And then we're happy to take any questions throughout that you might have. And we're happy to drill down on anything that you might want to see or anything you might want to expand on. So with that, let me share my screen. All right, and let's do that. And there we go. Okay, so a little bit about us. Basically, I think this is one of the probably easiest ways to explain what we do and where we fit in the grand scheme of all these different tools that are out there, okay? So the idea here is you've got all of these different solutions that you're probably working with. Some of you are working with all of this, some of this. This is by no means everything that we do, but it's kind of a sample of what our day-to-day looks like. All of these different tools have their own logins, their own reports, their own methodologies, their own way of getting data and information out of them. A lot of them are multi-tenanted, which means I can only get a single tenant view of what's going on. And I've got to sort of repeat myself over and over and over again for every customer. Gaining any kind of visibility and access to data and information is really, really, really difficult. Not to mention we've got 4 or 5 portals open, and in some cases in those portals, another 4 or 5 windows open, just trying to look up basic information. So we're going to aggregate all of that. We're going to be your data warehouse, your data aggregator, your super integrator, if you will, and pull all that stuff into a central platform. And then ideally, we can kind of feed that into other tools and platforms where it's appropriate. Sometimes that might mean putting data into a tool like Hoodoo or IT Glue, bringing data over for reporting into tools like Power BI or BrightGauge. Now, what's really nice about this is it's a lot easier when you think about your reporting strategy. It's a lot easier to report on a single database with a complete data set than it is to try to plug into and pull reports from all of this mess out here, because all of these are different. And then, of course, feeding ticketing information and stuff into some sort of PSA, whether that's TigerPaw, ConnectWise, Autotask, don't really care. We can email in, create tickets wherever we need to make sure that you get the alerts and information that are coming over based on the things that we're seeing within the data set. So ultimately, our goal is to, we always say operate at 10x, right? There's a lot of manual labor that we burn. If we go back a slide, for example, if you erase Liongard from this picture, unfortunately, the only thing that really goes back in there is you. It's people. It's time, talent, and treasure. And trying to get how much time, talent, and treasure do you want to spend to try to manage all of this, right? So ideally, if we can do it easier, we're going to spend less of those key things, right? And make sure that we're able to identify what's going on in these environments and what changes causes heart attacks and heart issues and, gray hairs to grow and stuff like that. And then try to bring some automation to that. So we are always being able to assess a customer's environment, even after you change it. Make sure that we are auditing and storing historical record. That's the other part. A lot of tools do not store history well at all. And that's something we're going to be really good at. And then being able to evaluate pretty much any part of a data set that you want, looking deeper into an application to really get insight as to what's going on. So obviously we started this as sort of an MSP for MSPs kind of thing, right? So we were an MSP in Houston, Texas. So we kind of understand the model, and the people that work here have all come from MSPs or work with the MSP community for a very long time. We try to make this really, really simple. The licensing is super simple and easy to understand. We try to make it easy for you to find the information that you need. It's about, one of the things I'm going to show you, it's not about just blobbing data into a place. It's about organizing and gaining insight into that information and displaying it in a way that actually helps you get the answer you want faster. So I think hopefully you'll see a lot of that during the demo today. So there you go. You can request a one-on-one if you want to get some more information. I'm going to go through it in some pretty good detail here for you as well. All right, so let's go jump into the fun stuff. And if there's any questions, just pop yourself off mute and ask. There's not a whole bunch of us on the call today, so I'm not too worried about it. So if you got any questions, just pop up, ask. Hey, I didn't understand that, not sure. Whatever the case might be, I'm happy to dive in. So let me explain the dashboard a little bit. So the first part is, what's that?
Making Windows K now.
Is that for me?
Go on, it was just somebody that came on. I'm gonna
Okay.
mute all, that way if anybody joins us, it mutes them. So
Perfect.
1 second, you're gonna be muted, and then you have to unmute yourself, Bill.
Okay, I can go do that. There we go. I should be back now.
Yep, you're back.
Perfect. All right. So as mentioned, if you have a question, just unmute, pop in, no big deal. All right. So a little bit of vocabulary, just so we're all speaking the same language and we're kind of all on the same page. An environment simply means your customer. That's it. One environment, one customer, one license. I'll go over pricing. License is flat rate cost. So it doesn't scale or grow with the size of the client or the systems that they have. It doesn't matter. It's just one customer, one environment, one license, one price. The other thing is we do what we call an inspection. So you'll hear me use the term inspector and inspections. So the agent that we use on the inside of the network is an inspector. Our cloud services that we use to do all of the API calls to all these other tools, those are just called inspectors, okay? Some of those things will generate some alerts, and I'll get into what those are, what they do. And some of those have some discovery capability. So a lot of tools that we use in the community today are multi-tenanted. So if you're the parent, we can discover the children, and that makes things go a whole lot faster, a lot more accurate. That way, as we add new tenants or new customers or new organizations, we can auto detect those and go, hey, by the way, make sure you get the data from there. So that's the dashboard. So let's drill down a little deeper and get into the client and the data and the information that we're going to be getting. So let's start with this guy right there. So where we start is at the client dashboard. So basically this is giving me an overview of what this customer has. So there's a few key things to point out. The first is there are 3 foundational principles to how Liongard operates. Basically, these are just woven throughout the fabric of the entire application. The first one is data, system information. We've got to be able to go and collect that information. We want to automate that process of data collection. We want to make it as simple and easy as possible. Usually it's a lot of give us API information, give us tenant IDs, give us passphrases and secrets. We'll go connect and we'll do all the hard work. That nets us a lot of very detailed, high fidelity, accurate information that we can now organize in a way that actually benefits us. So for example, if we're looking at a Microsoft tenant, what are you usually there to get? Usually it's probably license information, right? Or customer asks for a list of users, or we need the admin account details, right? Put that stuff here so you can easily access it. So I don't have to go digging for it, right? I can organize my information in a way that helps me. What are the most common elements that you're always looking for? Put those here. It's a great place to start with an overview. What are the key things about these systems do I want to know? Like managing SSL certificates, I care about expiries. Managing domains, I care about expiries and maybe MX record changes and things like that. So it gives me the ability to focus on the things that are the most important to me, right? And then automate that data collection. Obviously, programmatically, we can go get information 1,000 times faster than a human can do it, of course. And that's part of where the time savings comes in. To go gather even this little bit of data will take you more time to log into the portal than it'll take me to audit the entire tenant. It's that level of performance. Now, the next thing. So that's first thing, get data. Next thing is this. So I pose a question to you all. If I were to give you a report, something to think about. If I were to give you a report from last month, how much would you trust the information in that report? Now I'm going to guess that you're all shaking your heads like, yeah, probably not a lot. Take it with a grain of salt. Why is that? Well, because things change. And we don't have a great way of accurately recording what those things are. So if I look at that report, I have no idea how old that information is compared to today. And you know what the sad part is if I gave you a report from today, you wouldn't still know what was different without going line by line to compare it. And let's be fair, that's not a very efficient way to do things. Not only that, but that's a lot of times because the way systems store data historically, that's how you actually have to keep historical record is in these old PDF reports from 6 months ago, a year ago, 9 months ago, whatever it is. And they're just basically worthless. It's really hard to get anything of value out of something like that old. So how do we fix it? That's where we come in. We actually go and store everything historically. Every audit of every system every day is stored historically against a timeline that you can go back to. So you can rewind time and look at a system a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. Not only that, but it allows us to do this, to track what's changed in that environment. What's different? Because some of these are a little scary. Somebody adds an admin account to a server somewhere. I bet you're going to want to know that. New external forwarding rules created in Office. I want to know exactly what that is. Somebody's gone in and blanked out the MX record on the domain or changed the name servers around. I want to know exactly what those changes were because if it's broken, I need to go put it back. What's the first question every engineer asks when something goes wrong at a customer site? What did you do? Basically, or when did you do that? Or great, what was it before you changed it? Because we don't write a lot of that stuff down. I've done it too. I'm just as guilty. I've moved servers from one VLAN to another and completely forgot what IP address I took it out of. So I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago, let alone 5 days ago. So change tracking is enormously helpful, letting me know that, you know what, there's been some user changes. You know, down here somewhere, somebody opened up a port somewhere. Somebody's moved some DNS records around. Somebody added a privileged account in Active Directory, right? Somebody closed 3389. Well, good thing they did that. Oh, nope, they opened it back up again. That's not good. So these are the kind of things that RMM tools don't monitor for. A lot of them can't even see even a fraction of this. They're focused on endpoints. So if it's not on the endpoint, how are we managing it? How are we securing it? How are we monitoring it? Chances are we're not.
Hey, Bill.
Yep.
So I had a question on this. You're getting the configuration for these network devices. Now, are you actually backing up that configuration, and could they use Liongard to restore the configuration or no?
We don't back up like the actual file. I have the whole configuration of the device, but I don't actually have a backup of the config file. So currently today, Liongard is all read-only information. I could restore something, right, based on the settings. I go manually set those and put them back because I would have the configuration stored, but I don't actually have a file that I could upload and say restore this device.
Yep. Okay. But I just said, and so you'd use like an AVIC in this case for networking, which would do a full config backup for you. And
It would. And then I would actually gather AVIC's data and bring that in here as an inspection.
Mhm.
And then I could even monitor to make sure that AVIC was actually doing those backups and alert you if it failed.
Sweet. Okay.
So yeah, I'm concerned with the security and the configuration of the environment and the settings of it, which leads me to the next point, which is the last part, the sort of last piece of this puzzle is the alerts. I know everybody's going, great, more alerts, that's all I need. Honestly, these are important. It's not noise, right? If you feel it's noise, you don't turn it on, which makes it really easy. But the idea here is that we're looking at alerts twofold. One, change tracking. Did something change? I was joking with an engineer a couple weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, I'll go in there and fix something, and then somebody will come behind me and unfix it, right? I closed 3389 like you saw in the change log, and then somebody came behind me and they opened it back up again, right? I fixed it, and then they unfixed it. I want to know when they unfix something, because today it's secure, and then somebody makes a change and it is no longer secure, right? And a lot of times we don't have visibility. Systems, one of the things we have to remember is systems don't track the changes that they're doing to the configuration. They care about health, right? CPU good, memory's good, still got some disk space, that's all good. But if somebody reconfigures the system to do something else, it doesn't care. It just assumes that's exactly what you wanted to do. So there's not a lot of monitoring for things like that. That's what we do. Somebody goes and reconfigures the system, we're going to tell you. The other thing that we're looking at is, and those changes could be vast. It could be security related. It could be something simple. You added some licenses and you need your billing person to know about it so they can automatically bill for it. And they don't have to spend as much time doing reconciliation, right? It's a helpful little automated step that makes that sort of cash process go easier. And then you've got things like configuration. You're probably looking at some of the alerts on the screen, right? Domain lockouts aren't set. Well, that's really bad. Passwords are too short. Didn't know that. There's no redundancy. Wow, if that goes down, that's going to be disappointing because nobody can log in. Oh, you got some unassigned licenses just sitting there. Man, I totally forgot about those because 3 people left last month and we're still billing them for those licenses. So it's a way to track both change that you care about. Not every change will be a ticket, right? Change you care about and configuration or misconfigurations that are really important. A lot of the stuff is driven around like CIS controls and things like that. So it's based all steeped in security. And then let's go take a look at some of the actual data points. So now we're looking at a list of systems. This was the overview. So it was the high level data about the systems that are at this client. This is a very big client, as you can see. And then the next one is going to be about going through some of the different inspectors and showing you the kind of data and information, the fidelity of the information that you can get. So I'll take something very simple. So these guys got a few domains. Actually, you know what? We'll just sort this by the kind of inspector. So got a few domains out there. Let's check their primary domain. So a few things stand out, right? One, I've got a timeline. This little line right here with these little dots, this is all of the historical audits. They're all saved. And you can rewind and go back to that audit at any point in time. So if I need to see what it looked like on the 19th, I just rewind the clock. This is exactly what it looked like a few days ago, right? And then I can go backwards and go back to today. This is exactly what it looks like today. So we can see things like our domain expiries automatically monitored for us, so we don't miss any of those. Even if our customer's renewing it, if they miss it, you're going to be the guy that has to clean the mess up, right, when it gets turned off. So best to go ahead and monitor it, let them know, hey, this is coming up for expiry, we haven't seen the renewal. Where are things hosted, right? More importantly, do they have good security? right? This domain, no SPF. DMARC's done, so good on them. No SPF's done. DKIM isn't present here. And of course, DNS security, none of these records are actually protected against potential DNS poisoning attacks. So we're going to evaluate that mess and be like, hey, here's all the problems. You got issues, and here's what you need to solve for. Not only that, but we can monitor DNS for changes. So how many times have you had a web developer log in and blank an MX record, or reorganize a bunch of name server records, and now they've screwed it all up and things are pointed to the wrong direction? You would know about that. Those changes get reflected either in an alert, or you'll also see them on the timeline. So if we rewind a little bit, you can see this whole week, they were probably doing some development work and they were making a bunch of changes. So I can actually rewind the clock all the way back to February, and then I can see exactly what we did. So some subdomain changes and some A record updates. And then we can literally follow that timeline. You can see all of the dev work getting done and all the changes being made to those systems. And you can even add your own little notes to it. So you can tag timeline entries with a note, maybe put in why that change occurred, or what you discovered, or who did that change, or whatever detail, link it to a ticket maybe, whatever makes sense to track about why this particular change is actually here, right? So the notes are really nice. You can pin them to timelines. You can actually pin them to inspections like this one. Hey, contact Bill Gates before you edit anything here. Or you can pin them to a client. You saw some of those little cards that were up there earlier. Now that's something simple. That's just a domain. Still, a lot of information, very well organized, easy to find what you're looking for, easy to sort, filter, and search through. And then let's go look at something a bit bigger. So let's say a Microsoft, since we all have probably a bunch of that stuff. Let's take a look at a tenant. And this is a really great example, right? So we have all, most of you were in the Microsoft portal probably this morning. If not, you were probably there yesterday. Trying to find anything in that portal is a nightmare. Stuff is all over the place. And every time we switch modules, it opens up a new tab. And then sometimes we have to open up more new tabs just to get access to information. And that gets ugly. It's really difficult to find anything and make heads or tails of it. So here we're going to organize all that data, put the highlights up there right up front. But then when we got to dig down a little bit, it's about organizing that information in a way that's easier to use. So you've got all of your licensing information. This is in 3 different tabs, or 3 different screens, essentially, that you're trying to get to just to be able to see what's in this one screen right here. Not to mention, you have all the historical records for this tenant. So if you were making changes, what did you do? I can literally rewind the tenant back to that day. I can see what my licenses were and which accounts had access. More specifically, I can see exactly what changes we made. So you can see us taking Sarah out. And this is great to make sure that, did we get that user? Did we get them out or in all the places that they need to either be out of or into, right? So I can look at those changes and go, yes, those look good. She's out everywhere. Or that new user we created, we got her into all the groups that she needed to be into. Try to do that in the audit log. It's almost impossible. It's a nightmare. Then let's just take user data. So this screen alone, how we've organized the information is pulling from 3 different areas of the portal: the exchange area, security area, user and billing information. Not to mention, you'd have 6 tabs open just to see what I'm showing you in this one table. And then you've got to aggregate it and correlate it all yourself as you try to look across 6 different tabs in the browser. So it's not just about blobbing data into some place. It's about organizing it in a more efficient way so that I can go, you know what, that account is not good, or their password, they got the right policy, the right licenses, they're not close to mail quotas. Hey, by the way, is anybody close to mail quotas? You know, and now I can go see, no, it looks like everybody's pretty good, right? So it's just about being able to organize and see information in a way that makes sense. If you do need it to alert, I just got off a call earlier today. He's like, yeah, if people get to their quota warning, can we send an alert for that? Absolutely, right? Before email quits working and they can't send email anymore, right? I want to warn them. And instead of going into every tenant and setting up that alert or hoping that you did for every tenant, you can set up an overarching template in Liongard that just applies to every tenant you add. So you add a new tenant, alerts automatically apply. Forwarding rule changes, I know about it. Quota warnings, got it. Suspicious logins, tell me about it, right? User risk policy is not turned on, definitely need to go fix that and configure that, right? Secure scores too low, I want to know about that too. So it's about looking at all of that information and being able to go, yes, I need to correct these issues. This is going to help me harden this tenant. This is going to be better security for my customer. I'm going to have less headaches and less gray hair at the end of the day because this stuff has got, it's kind of watching and monitoring to make sure that all that stuff is taken care of. So, and now imagine that across like managing certificates, for example, or managing all of your licenses across all your tenants. That's easy to do. I can easily just go to and pull a report and say, you know what? I want to see all my Microsoft 365 licenses across all my tenants. Not only that, but I'd also like to see the unused licenses, who the privileged accounts are, and list of users for each one with all of their licenses. There it is, a couple of seconds. It's impossible to aggregate that and, just try to do that in the portal today. Of course, Microsoft will sell you a tool for that. I think Lighthouse. But again, now you've got another tool that's another point solution that just does one thing to take care of one system. So being able to do stuff like this quickly and easily, I need to evaluate domain security. Like, where are we at with our DMARC project, for example, right? Or our SPF project. So I can just simply go to my internet domains, pull a quick report, and there's all my domain security, expiries, SPFs, present, not present, across everything that I have under management. And I got that in about 10 seconds. This is stuff that takes hours to go gather, like using MX Toolbox or something like that to try to go grab all this information and doing who is, and then trying to structure it all yourself and then try to report on it. It's almost impossible. It's not impossible. I should say it's more just ridiculously time consuming when it doesn't need to be. It just takes a lot of time. So all of the cloud stuff you see, anything basically outside the firewall, our cloud service does that for you. You give us the credentials, passphrases, secrets, things like that. We'll go gather all the data and information that you're looking at, right? That's everything outside the firewall. Now, inside the firewall, you can put an inspector, an agent, inside the network centrally located. This does not get deployed to every device. It's not how it works. You basically just pop it into like the DC or a file and print server or Synology or Linux box or something, whatever you kind of got sitting there. And then that agent can talk to all of the things inside that it needs to. So if there's any Windows servers there, if there's an Active Directory, if there's a Synology in the corner, or I've got VMware or Hyper-V running somewhere, data center, doesn't matter. I need to connect into the firewall, right? I'll use, let's use Sonic Wall. It's up here at the top, just to give you an idea of what you can collect. So in this case, I'm using an SSH connection to connect to a firewall. We try to stay away from SNMP. It's a nightmare to use. SSH is so much more reliable, and we can command line all our stuff that way. So now I know all of my model number information. I've got all my firmware, whether this is a FortiGate, WatchGuard, doesn't matter. Almost all the firewalls will pull this level of detail. And then you've got, I can go pull a report on where are we at for firmwares across every firewall as of today, not 3 months ago when I put it in a spreadsheet. Where are we at today, right? And what would take hours of logging into firewalls to look up something simple, you could have in a couple of seconds here. Being able to track interface changes, or more importantly, firewall rules. right? Did somebody do a zone change? Did somebody turn off, here's the, I fixed it, and then somebody went and unfixed it. Somebody turns off SSL control or anti-spyware or AV or something like that. So now somebody shuts this off, which they've done there. I might want to know about that. Again, the firewall isn't going to alert you. It assumes that's what you wanted to do. It gives you a little warning in a pop-up that says, are you sure you want to do this? When you click yes, that's the end of the story. It's changed. Now, if you need to know about that, that's where we come in. Somebody's written a firewall rule, right? So if anybody does a rule that says WAN to LAN any, or port 3389 in the Cisco is now forwarded to a server, like all those things are really bad. So if it happens, we want to know about it, and you can now monitor that, right? And again, most configuration changes, tools don't monitor those things because they just assume that's what you wanted to do. Like, you want anti-spyware off? Sure, I'll shut it off. So being able to pull all that data in for us, track licensing or track usage for billing, having that centralized portal to go to pull that billing data in and be able to make a quick like reconciliation report, for example, so that you can say, oh, how much of each of these things do I have? And that way we can go, okay, well, I need to make sure I'm billing each customer for those. And then we don't lose things. And it makes reconciliation go faster. Any questions so far from anybody? Lane, I don't know if they're chatting those things in or.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any chats.
Or if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question, happy to do that.
I think you hit on something good with the RMMs. I think when people see alerting in your program, the first thing they think of is, well, I've got my RMM to do all the alerting. So maybe you could expand on that a little bit. And what you said is, well, the RMM, typically RMM doesn't alert if an admin turns something on or off, right? Or if a server gets shut down, by an admin or whatever, that it doesn't alert it.
Well, yeah, RMMs are built, and they're still, honestly, they're getting a little bit old, right? They started developing those things back in the early 2000s, right? And even Microsoft even before in the 90s with, SMS and stuff like that. But like all of the Kaseyas, the ConnectWises, the Datos, Autotasks, the Center Stages, the, AVGs back in the day and stuff like the LPIs, like those are from early 2000s when endpoint ruled the world, right? Everything was on an endpoint, everything was on a server, all our apps were on a server, and we could put an RMM tool and it did all the work for us. That is really outdated technology now. Almost nobody has any servers anymore. Most of that stuff's in a cloud. Almost all of it is virtualized now. Most of it is SaaS and hosted applications. RMM tools don't know anything about that. If it isn't on a server or a workstation, it's absolutely blind. It just doesn't know. And to be fair, even on a server or a workstation, and I'll give you an example. So this is a Windows Server inspection. We don't do workstations, just FYI. In that regard, the RMM's still king. It does a fine job of endpoint management. That's what it's designed to do. And I'm not trying to replace that. But your RMM's monitoring a server. So if this drive space goes down, it will generate a ticket. Or if the CPU is, getting pegged out, it'll give you a ticket, right? If some services aren't running, it'll give you a ticket. But if somebody goes in and ticks a box and adds a new feature under a role, it won't tell you a single thing. And that might be critical to know because that could screw up the applications running on that server. Like a lot of these have some very specific installation instructions. Do not turn these roles on. Do not turn these features on. Otherwise, you will break our application. But it doesn't know, RMM tool doesn't know that, right? If you start to get into some of the apps on a particular server, so we use Active Directory for an example. So unless you're an absolute guru with PowerShell and you want to write a million scripts, then it doesn't really know what's going on even on the apps on the server, right? They're not application performance or application management tools. their endpoint management. They manage the physical running and the performance of that system. So if you want to know if somebody changed user permissions on somebody's account and just granted them elevated access as domain admin, your RMM tool doesn't know that. It doesn't even care. And Active Directory isn't going to alert you either because it doesn't care. It assumes that's what you wanted to do. So that's kind of the point, is like a lot of these configuration changes, like there's no monitoring for any of that stuff because the tool assumes that you know what you're doing and that's what you wanted to do. But in some cases, that's not what should have been done. And that's what we're trying to make sure, is that these configs are actually secure. And as people make changes to those environments, they remain secure. So if somebody does go grant somebody domain admin rights, you will know about that, relatively quickly, within 8 hours, right? So before hopefully really any damage can occur. That's the longest period. Obviously, depending on when the inspector runs versus when you actually make the change, could be much faster. So that's the idea, but it's also the depth and fidelity of the information. Like if somebody makes a GPO change, most of the tools that we have today don't care. That's not what they assume that's what you wanted to do. So like making sure that we're tracking those changes, we're tracking configurations, and then we're evaluating that to go, you know what? There's some issues. You've got never used accounts. Well, if the account's never been used, why is it there? You've got stale accounts. Okay, we've got to clean those out. You have stale admin accounts. That's not good either, right? Or we have brute force attempts on an account, or your passwords are too weak, or somebody detached a group policy, or it's out of date. A lot of that stuff is like stuff that we're just not able to monitor for. We just don't have good visibility. Not only that, if you take the idea or premise of a domain, this is my domain, and it doesn't talk to necessarily the other customer's domain over there. So getting any kind of reporting and data and information globally across domains is really difficult to do. I won't say impossible. It's really difficult, and it's really time consuming, and it's not easy. There's a lot of PowerShell involved and a lot of reporting and stuff like that. Whereas I can easily just go pull, like, what do you want to see from every domain? You want to see a list of stale users? You want to see how many user counts you got? What do you want to see? Right? You want to compare like group policies across domains, OU configs, DHCP setups? Absolutely. You can do all of that. Or I just want to run a privileged user report across all different systems. I can easily go pull up a report, say, give me all the privileged accounts. And now in a couple of seconds, I've got a report at either a customer or all my customers. So I can see exactly like, well, what local Windows accounts, and who are our 365 admins, and who are Active Directory admins? Is it matching our naming convention? Or is there some new weird thing out here? Or did we forget to turn the guest account off because somebody spun up a new VM and nobody bothered to look at how that VM was configured, and all of the admin shares are open and the guest account still turned on, and there's no hardening on security. Everything is just set up, weak passwords, weak security, weak complexity, everything. So that kind of insight is what we're after, to make sure that we're at a very minimal level doing the foundational security that we need to do across all of our clients. And a lot of this stuff is just us manually going in and trying to figure it out. Not to mention, we have pretty much documented all of your systems for you. So all of that documentation you're doing, especially if you're using tools like IT Glue, or if you're using something like Hoodoo, there's a great integration of Hoodoo, great integration of IT Glue, where we can take this kind of data and information and we can push that over to those systems, right? So what would take me 2 minutes of setup to do and gather, I can go audit an entire Active Directory in basically about 5 minutes with a level of detail and accuracy that you just can't get if you did it manually, right? So if, are there people on the phone using like IT Glue or Hoodoo or anything like that?
What was that? A lot of people are using IT Glue. I know that.
All right, so
IT Glue.
yeah. So let me show you a quick example. So let's compare and contrast something. Let's compare my audit of Active Directory versus manual documentation today. All right. So my audit of Active Directory is install an agent. Even if you did that manually, it takes 2 minutes. So once I've got my agent installed, we're going to add a new system, Active Directory. I'm going to give it a friendly name and call it Bob. Pick my local agent. I'm going to put the admin username and password. I'll even go and set a schedule. Go run this every 8 hours. Click save. That's it. I'm done. And all of that data and information that we were just looking at when we were in Active Directory down here, this entire audit of all of this information every day, stored historically, every 8 hours in this case, since what we just set up, with all of this, with all of the reporting metrics turned on, all of the change detections enabled, and all of the alerts running, it literally took me 2 minutes to set it up. Now let's contrast that with the way we do it today. We go here, we go Active Directory, we click new template. Oh, I got to go to my RMM tool. I got to find that domain controller. I got to find the credentials. I've got to RDP or remote or screen connect or whatever into that box, get logged in. I got to open the Microsoft console. You've already spent more time and you have captured 0 pieces of information. I've already done a complete audit of the system, given you all the alerts about the security issues before you've even been able to copy and paste the first bit of data. And I've automatically put it into IT Glue into its own flexible asset because it is a large amount of information. I've already audited and put the entire audit into IT Glue. Here's the interesting thing too. A lot of these templates, they focus on the static data that doesn't change much, which, to be honest, when you look at these fields, none of that is usually helpful in your day-to-day support. What do you usually need when you go into AD? Some user account information, right? Or computer account information, or somebody's permissions, or what scopes for DHCP did we use? Or I need to check the GPOs so we're going to modify our security a little bit. None of that stuff is in the template. So actually, I'll probably never come back and even look at this data set that I spent an hour trying to get. So if you want that other data set we were just talking about, you got to go get that on your own. And then you've got to go relate it all together. I've got it all in the same place. If I need to look up somebody's account, hey, is Tony Stark in here? There's Tony's account. Tony's active. Tony's in the right group. That's all I needed. I didn't have to go RDP anywhere to do anything. And this information is updated. So for example, I said, let's run that inspector every 8 hours. Every 8 hours would be a new revision of that document in IT Glue. So I would literally collect 100 times more information you would ever do manually, actually collect the data that you would use, put it all in the same place, and update it every single day for you while monitoring it for changes and alerting on any security or configuration issues, all in 2 minutes worth of work. It's an enormous amount of time savings. That's why it's like the difference of, for us old schoolers that have been around a little bit, back in the day when you only had VNC or Timbuktu or PC Anywhere, we used to call it PC Nowhere, or then Log Me In rolled around. We used Log Me In for a while. If somebody said install Adobe on 50 desktops and all you had was Log Me In, you were in for a very long couple days. Today, you wouldn't dream of courting that level of inefficiency. It's just unthinkable. You would give that job to an RMM and a 15-hour job just became 15 minutes. Well, a 20-hour, 30-hour documentation job in IT Glue just became about 30 to 60 minutes. So there's an enormous potential to save time. I'm not even touching on like gathering data like this for pre-sales use, right? To put together some pre-sales reports and some FUD reports and things like that. putting it on break fix clients to find issues and generate more break fix work, or trying to roll those guys to manage services. Data is it's powerful. Once you understand that you have it and you actually have accurate data, what you can do with it is limitless. Just look at Google, right? I'm not saying you're going to become the next Google, but look at a company that basically is $1 trillion company built on data. They don't actually sell a product, they sell data. It's amazing what you can do with it. And the more you have, the more it's organized and the better insight you get, the better you can secure it and the better you can leverage it to be more efficient, more effective, and more profitable. A lot less of, I think we should do that, and more of, we really need to do that. When you're using a tool that actually organizes the stuff the way that we do. So with that, I'll leave the last few minutes for any questions or anything you guys might want to ask or anything you want to know. I'm happy to help out and ask any questions. Oh, pricing. So really quick. So how is it priced? I mentioned in the very beginning, pricing is flat. So it's basically one customer, one environment, one license. It starts at $25. I believe we have a discount for you guys. So that's a little bit cheaper, but basically 15 customers to start. And then implementation's free. So it costs you nothing to implement it. And we can do a satisfaction guarantee. And we also do a ramp period of delayed billing of at least 30 days, depending on like how many environments you want to put in. We do anywhere from 30 to 60 days to make sure that you get up and running and implemented, which is free, and that you're satisfied, which is included, and before you actually have to pay for anything. So you can easily sign up, put the tag group in here. If you have specific questions about your environment or anything like that, I'm happy to answer those, or we can have a separate call with any of the regional salespeople from your territory. But essentially, yeah, it's super easy. There's price breaks. The higher you go, the cheaper it gets. It goes down pretty drastically, pretty quickly.
Hey, Bill, just so everybody knows that $25 starting price is actually $23.50 for tag members.
Yep.
So I guess that's a 10% discount.
I believe it. Any tier, I believe, is a 10% discount for you
Yeah.
guys. So if you have 25, it's 10% off that. So it's like $18 and change. That's what I mean. As you go up, it gets pretty cheap pretty quickly.
Yep.
And it's not a lot for what you get out of it. And you think about that. If I were to go to anybody on the phone and say, give me a $20 bill, I'll go onboard and document that new client you just got. You couldn't get your wallet out quick enough because there's no way you could possibly spend $20 and have that kind of detail. You just can't. Even if it saved you an hour or two, it would literally pay for itself for the whole year for that customer if it just saved you an hour or two.
We got a question from Jeff. How do we protect our clients' info? I don't know, Jeff, if you could expand on that, probably. But Jeff, you can unmute yourself.
Accessing it through Liongard.
Yeah, just protecting our clients' information from anybody else on Liongard and from you guys technically also.
Yeah, no, everything is, if you have your own access, obviously, it's like every other cloud application that we use, right? It's all multi-tenanted. Nobody can see your data. Only you can see your data. Everything is encrypted in transit. Everything's encrypted at rest. You can use SSO now. We have our SSO integration set up, two-factor authentication. So we've done our SOC audits as well to make sure that everything is super, super secure.
And they can't sell our information.
And you can't
Nope.
sell our information.
Nope, absolutely not. We
Okay.
can't even see it. Like, it's all encrypted in the database. We have basic metrics about like license usage and stuff like that. But, I don't know anything about any customer. I just know like how many environments you've got and, how many licenses you're using. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Is there a contract?
It's 12 months, and that starts after your ramp period. So if you got like a 30-day, say May 1st billing, you would have your SAT guarantee would start when you onboarded. You would be under that free period up until May. And then after that, your contract would actually start May 1st. So at any point up to that, generally speaking, you can just say, you know what, this isn't working out. It's not what I thought, or you guys did a crap job, whatever, any reason, doesn't matter. If you're not satisfied, you can just pull the plug. We shake hands, part friends, and say, look, we gave it our best shot. But the onus is on us because we put a lot of time, effort, and resources up front to make sure that you guys are implemented and using the tool successfully.
As you add users, is it 12 months from each add of a client license, or is it just on like a 12-month recurring basis, or how does that work?
It's just a 12-month recurring basis. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. You can go up or down. You can never go below 15, but you can go up. It's all based on tiers. So, you can imagine if you're at 15, right? Let's say you're growing and you get to 18 or 19. Well, that's about the same cost as if you just went to the 25 tier. You know what I mean? Before
Right.
you actually get there. So yeah, you can just bump your tiers up whenever you want to. They'll make sure you figure in your discount for tag, and they'll bump you to the next tier. So if you're like, hey, we're pretty close to 35, let's just go there. It'll be
Right.
cheaper than if you just usage base it all the way to 35.
Okay.
Because you imagine 2350 times 35 is a lot more expensive than 18 times 35.
Right. So the
So-
minimum is 15 times the 2350 at 352.50 a month.
That sounds about right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian, also, we give, TAG has a 4% rebate on top of that, so.
Okay.
Yep. The enhanced inspectors, a lot of people always ask, what's that $2 for? Most people never get there, but basically there's only 3 inspectors that aren't completely unlimited. And that's those 3 right there. So we would give you 10 times the number of environments you started with. So if you start at 15, you'll get 150 of those to use however you want. Most people aren't managing 150 servers because those things are just kind of going by the wayside these days. But if you happen to be hosting like a big AWS farm, or you're an ISP or app hosting, or something like that, yeah, you might have a bunch of servers that you want to document.
You had mentioned creating service orders or tickets in the PSA. You're doing that by just sending the email to the PSA.
It depends on the PSA. If you're using TigerPaw, for example, they have an email connector. I can just send an email and it'll generate a ticket, like support at, or you can create a new one just for Liongard and send it to a board. If you're using ConnectWise or Autotask or ServiceNow or Kaseya BMS or any of those, we can API ticket creation. That way we can two-way sync the tickets and open and close them.
Okay.
If you're using ConnectWise, there's even a deeper integration where you can do configuration updates, move things around boards, stuff like that.
Okay.
Any other questions? So if you want to get started, if you're comfortable with that, you're like, hey, this looks great, let's give it a run. Just fill out the order form online. Basically, when you get to the bottom, click complete order. It'll ask you to schedule a kickoff call. We'll put you into onboarding and you're on your way. We try to make this really as easy and simple as possible. Like it's almost as easy as ordering like a subscription on your phone. And then if you got any questions, if you want a further demo, if you want to take apart and go deeper into the systems that you specifically manage and what kind of information we get for those, you can sign up for a demo. I think I've got it back here. Yep, right there. So you can sign up for a one-on-one demo. And that way we can sit down with, like, hey, look, here's the systems that I use. Where is this going to plug in? How's that going to work? We're happy to do that as well. But there's also a list on our website. So if you guys want that URL right there, you can just pop in there for a demo. And then if you want to see a list on the website, like right on the pricing page. So if you just go to liongard.com, pricing, you'll end up where I am. You can see the full list of inspections. This is just the production stuff that we're doing. There's another 20 or 30 of these that are in alpha and beta that you can also use. So atop of the 50 something inspectors that are out here, there's another 20 or so behind it that are coming up, like Box, Dropbox, Salesforce, Slack, Teams, a few others, like bunch of stuff like that. And those are accessible actually in your application. So you
Bill,
got,
I added
Yep.
some links for everybody. The link to the Trust Center if you want to see our security.
Yep.
I also put in the link if you want to get a one-on-one demo. We're offering a free shirt once you book and attend. Or if you're just ready to sign up, I've also provided that link as well. So there's 3 links in the chat.
yeah, here's just an idea of some of the stuff that we're working on. So you kind of see our roadmap right in the application. So this is all stuff that's sort of up and coming. And then stuff that's just getting started, kind of right here. So, and these will progress to beta, and which you can use them. They're actually stable. You can use them, and then they'll progress to beta, and then they'll progress right into production. But cool. Well, I believe we're at time.
All right, well, thanks very much, Bill. Thanks everybody for joining. As I mentioned, we have recorded this and I will be sending it out to you soon. Those of you that I've been talking to about this, or anybody else for that matter, please feel free to reach out directly to me with questions, and we'll talk to you then. So thanks very much, everybody, and have a great week.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lane.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.